When you hear the name Isaac Newton, what do you think of? If you are like most people, you think of the man known as a brilliant mathematician and physicist, and quite possibly the most influential scientist that ever lived. He formulated the laws of motion and gravity, along with many other fundamental scientific principles. But the people that knew Isaac Newton described him as somewhat of a reclusive man who kept to himself and didn't really have many friends or close relationships. That left him free to dedicate his time to the sciences he loved. What few people know is that Newton had interests that were possibly more important to him than math and physics. One of his lesser-known hobbies was alchemy, which in his days was the practice of changing common metals such as lead into gold. Newton had extensive writings on the subject, which he wrote in coded documents so that his secrets would not be revealed. But perhaps his most long-term and secretive research was focused on decoding the Bible. It was secretive because in Newton's time the church took a very dim view of anyone trying to find meaning in the Bible that was not formally sanctioned by the church. So Isaac Newton was very careful to keep his Bible research records secret. Other prominent men, including the mystical prophet Nostradamus, who lived 150 years prior to Newton, also had to keep predictions of the future very cloaked so they would not be punished by the church. In particular, Newton really wanted to unravel the biblical scriptures concerning the end time. Taking a step back, it's important to recognize that there were many people throughout history that thought they had special knowledge of when the world would end. Here are some of the more recent examples. Baptist preacher William Miller began telling his flock in 1831 that Jesus Christ would return in 1843, bringing with him the end of the world. There were an estimated 100,000 followers who believed the prophecy and prepared to return with Jesus to heaven at that time. When the 1843 prediction failed to occur, Miller recalculated and determined that the world would actually end in 1844, which of course also did not happen. Halley's Comet passes by the Earth every 76 years, but in 1910 there was fear it would destroy the planet, either by a collision or through the toxins carried with it. Public fear was fueled by newspaper headlines that shouted things such as, "Comet may destroy all life on Earth." A group in Oklahoma even tried to sacrifice a virgin to fend off disaster, and people stocked up on bottled air. Once again, false alarm. And then there was Y2K. For the most part, the panic over the year 2000 was more of an end of civilization rather than end of the world fear. People hoarded food and water, while many others converted all their money to gold and silver in anticipation of returning to the barter system. While there were some computer failures on January 1st, 2000, the world's economic system remained mainly intact. Harold Camping was a Christian radio personality that spread his supposed message from God that the world would end in 1994. When that year came and went, Camping was disappointed but undeterred. In 2009, he announced that May 21, 2011 would be the true end of times and spent close to $10 million to spread the word. When his predictions failed yet again, Camping released a letter where he repented for the sin of his false prophecies. And last but definitely not least was the Mayan calendar prophecy. Someone calculated that the Mayan calendar would end its great cycle on December 21, 2012, which started speculation that the world would end on that day. This possibility spurred all kinds of new activities such as Doomsday prepping, where people would create underground living spaces to hopefully ride out whatever catastrophe might occur. Once again, nothing happened. Apparently, it isn't all that easy to predict the end of the world. So Isaac Newton's fascination with biblical prophecy shouldn't concern us, right? Many have tried and failed to interpret the end-time predictions of the Bible. The last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, documents a vision that St. John received while imprisoned on the island of Patmos. This vision showed a catastrophic end of the world, with warring factions ending in the battle of the apocalypse. But it doesn't appear that Isaac Newton focused only on this book for his predictions. Newton used extensive analysis to arrive at the year the world would end. There are many clues within the prophetic books of the Bible, particularly the book of Daniel, which tells of the 70 weeks prophecy. This prophecy describes when future events would happen before the return of Jesus and the end of the age. Some of those events have already occurred. So it was the detailed prophetic passages in the Bible that Isaac Newton used to arrive at the year 2060. He is one of the very few people that predicted a date for the end of the world when he would not be alive to see it. And it wasn't a message from God that he received one night while asleep. Rather, this was a secretive and scientific obsession that he worked on over the course of many years. In fact, the papers that held his work on 2060 were private and not intended to be made public. Newton himself had warned against people that set dates for the end times, since Jesus himself had said that no one knows the day and hour except God. Will the world really end in 2060, as Isaac Newton predicted? He was certainly one of the most brilliant men in history, but was he really able to solve the biggest puzzle in biblical prophecy? I'll leave that up to you to decide.